Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings, to the We Are Change news show. And there's a lot of crappy news to cover. With a ring of fire alert after an earthquake in the Philippines and a volcano going off in Hawaii. But in this video, we are going to tell you how the world is trying to blow itself up figuratively with the latest geopolitical news, what you need to know, and what's actually happening. And there really hasn't been a hotter divisive topic than, of course, Israel, which is still brewing, with even the president of Turkey, Erdogan, saying that Turkey will not allow Israel to steal Jerusalem from Palestine. The Prime Minister of Israel's son decided to respond with a very diplomatic message saying, F you, Turkey. This tension, of course, comes after around 62 Palestinians were killed, with around 2,000 wounded from Israeli snipers, with violence that happened at the Gaza-Israel border, which Turkey requested to airlift the injured out of Palestine and give them proper medical treatment, which Israel refused and said that the Gaza patients will be allowed to be treated in Israel. Now, of course, there's a lot of disinformation dealing with just this one incident, with one side saying that Israel protected themselves from Hamas killers who wanted to break through the border fence and murder all Israelis, while the other side is answering back saying no, these were just peaceful protesters that were slaughtered by Israeli snipers indiscriminately. Now, of course, the truth is always a lot more complicated and usually somewhere in the middle. But looking at this event, Hamas officials did come out and say that 50 of the 62 killed were actual members of Hamas. There was also some violent rhetoric that was recorded at this protesters towards Israelis. But we have to understand here the bigger context behind this story that even the Washington Post wrote about in 2014 is that Israel helped create Hamas, and they do seem like a perfect enemy for Israel that of course compromises any possible peace deal between the two. There's also this footage going around social media right now that people are attributing to this latest incident in Gaza, which reportedly is footage of a Hamas soldier moving around when he is supposed to be one of the casualties that they are reporting, but this is actually old footage years ago from Hamas. And of course there's been a lot of propaganda, a lot of disinformation, a lot of insults being hurled around because of this particular topic, which I believe there should be a full open investigation about, which the United Nations is trying to do. The French are backing it, so is the United Kingdom, major US allies, but the United States blocked the proposal to even investigate what happened. Now, even mentioning everything I said before and trying to look at this objectively, I think it is clear that there's a case of excessive force here, especially with over 2,000 people wounded, tear gas canisters, and even live ammunition being shot at journalists on the scene there. And before you go all crazy on me, which a lot of you have in the comment section, even the Israeli army spokesperson came out and conceded that the military had failed in efforts to minimize the Gaza casualties. And there does deserve to be some legitimate criticism here. Now, with the Israeli government being so intertwined with American politics, I wanted to shift focuses here just for a little bit and remind you guys that Israel has been giving safe haven and secret aid to Syrian rebels, which are mainly jihadis, giving them direct funding, food, fuel, and even medical supplies. And they're mainly doing these because the rebels and jihadis are mainly fighting Iranian allied forces right on Israel's doorsteps. The United States ran similar programs, as even a secret Pentagon report revealed that the United States helped create ISIS as a tool for regime change in Syria, which is also in the benefit of the United States and Israel. And our tax dollars directly went to arming and establishing jihadis in Syria, which is a story that all Americans should know about, but is completely being censored from the mainstream media because this has dire consequences and is bankrupting our country, because now with jihadis, the United States has to fight the jihadis. And as the Wall Street Journal just released yesterday, they estimate that the United States has spent $2.8 trillion on fighting jihadis and terrorism. The Nation released a very similar piece yesterday saying that this actually has cost taxpayers $5.6 trillion, when in reality it's probably a lot bigger with the secret black budgets that no one even knows about. And this is really one of the most sinister games being played on the American people with our own money, with our own taxes going straight to funding and helping the rise of jihadis, then spending money on fighting the jihadis, bombing them, arming them, rebuilding, and then bombing again, making us completely bankrupt, while the very few at the military-industrial complex pulling the strings of probably all the mainstream media channels and also social networks now that criticize me for even bringing this up, they're the ones They're the ones who are benefiting while we are being robbed and looted and still have to face the potential of real domestic terrorism that happens mainly from Wahhabism and predominantly from all the Sunni mosques that Saudi Arabia gets all their petrodollar from and establishes all around the West that come from there. So, yeah. The war on terror is an absolute scam, and it's only getting worse under U.S. President Donald Trump, which even former Congressman and presidential candidate Ron Paul came out a few days ago and said that Donald Trump's plan for Iran is to put terrorists in charge. And of course, this article will be in the sources of this video, so you could read it yourself and fact check everything yourself. But it's not just the Middle East that we have to worry about. It's also Asia, where of course Donald Trump's national security advisor and war hawk, really just a bloodthirsty minion, is leading the negotiations, which of course most likely he is deliberately messing up, as we've seen from the response from North Korea, with North Korea officially responding today saying that they will not end up like Libya and Iraq, which John Bolton thinks is a brilliant idea to mention when he's talking about his plan for North Korea. Donald Trump tried to salvage the peace talks today by officially saying if North Korea's Kim Jong-un denuclearizes, then he'll get protections that would be, quote, very strong. And now already a lot of people know that the peace talks between North and South Korea have been totally canceled, and the talks between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump are completely up in the air. Continuing on in more disastrous neoconservative bloodthirsty war news, yesterday Russia finished their $3.6 billion project and built the bridge that connects Russia and Crimea together, to which neoconservatives and so-called journalists automatically said should be bombed, like we saw in the Washington Examiner with the headline, Ukraine should blow up Putin's Crimea bridge. Now, of course, that is very unlikely to happen, but with tensions between Russia and the United States being at an all-time low, which of course justifies more fear-mongering and a bigger arms buildup like we're seeing the United States and Russia commit to, just like Russia just announced that their hypersonic missile will be ready for war by 2020. A missile that they claim will secure the country's security for many decades, which they hope will ensure a strategic balance for decades, and at the same time render NATO's US-led missile defense system completely useless. So yeah, that's happening. And also, in other disastrous news, we have a new CIA head at the United States here, a person who, quote, tortured just for the sake of torture, as described by her former co-worker and CIA whistleblower, John Kiriakou, who said that she enjoyed inflicting pain on people, with even Amnesty International coming out and saying that the new CIA nomination is an affront to human rights. And fellow journalist Jeremy Scahill made a very interesting point by saying, quote, this is about a nation that claims consistently to be exceptional and morally superior, showing the world in clear terms that it supports torture and will never hold its own accountable. And yeah, the supposed deep state is definitely alive and well, with Donald Trump pushing for this appointment and now finally getting it. Which again, sorry to burst people's bubble, but is not some 4D QAnon chess move. And now in other deep state, or really military-industrial complex news, it looks like the United States and UK are one step closer to arresting Julian Assange of WikiLeaks, who is predominantly guilty of showing the American people what the American government has been doing. And don't worry, it's not just Julian Assange feeling the pressure, it's also you, the average American citizen, that has to now deal with government drones flying over their homes, spying on them, as is happening right now in Sacramento, with a government drone flying over many people's homes at 3 o'clock in the morning by the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency, a government agency that is doing this for, quote, safety and security, a program that is costing taxpayers $20,000 that has, even according to this article, which you could fact check yourself, has successfully caught a loiterer. Also, in other crazy police state news, the police visited a house of a man who posted pictures of morel mushrooms on Facebook that, of course, were edible. Not psychedelic, but they had the police knocking on his door, coming into his house for just simply posting pictures of mushrooms on his social media page. Don't worry, this is all done for your safety and security, and God forbid that they were actual psychedelic mushrooms that opened up his consciousness and made him see reality in a totally different light that the mainstream media doesn't want you to see. And if that wasn't crazy enough, in the European Union, we are learning that it will become a law that by 2018, all cars must have, quote, emergency black boxes in them that will, of course, contain phone-like SIM cards that, of course, will also track drivers' movements. Now, the European government is, of course, saying that this will help emergency services find your vehicle in the event of a crash. But in reality, it's another Orwellian Big Brother wet dream coming to fruition in Europe, which again, just to remind you, cops here in the United States could find the location of any phone in the country in just seconds. And it's not just the police, but also the corporatocracy you have to worry about, as US cell carriers are now selling access to your real-time phone location data because hell, if they can make money off you, why not? And just like this article points out, almost every virtual device is unsecure, as we found out that your devices could be hacked through ultrasonic sounds that could, of course, take control of your Alexa, of your Siri, of your iPhone, which most likely intelligence agencies already have and are using clandestinely. But you better be a good citizen. No loitering, no acting aggressive, or literally the TSA will put you on a watch list and put a blue glove up your boot. Literally, that's what's reported by The Hill today, as people can now be placed on TSA's new secret watch list from anything including loitering to, quote, acting aggressively. And what do you expect for a country that has the largest prison population in the entire world? And it's only getting worse, as there's a new bill in Congress that would imprison people for up to 10 years now if they, quote, injured a cop. So as the prison industrial complex is rising up in front of us and our rights are being stripped away every single day away from us, at the same time distracting everyone with Stormy Daniels' bullcrap news, there's at least a little bit of good news, as we found out that there was a historic win within the Senate to restore net neutrality, which of course would limit conglomerates' power over the internet and mainly help corporate television networks, passed in the Senate. But before you get too excited, has to go through Congress and also the President of the United States, who has to sign it into law, which definitely won't happen. But it doesn't really matter anyway, since the big social media giants and networks are just censoring anything that they don't like, which we're definitely feeling the brunt of on our small independent mom and pop news organization here at WeAreChange that has been getting royally screwed by YouTube, Twitter, and of course Facebook. Gee, I wonder why. But that doesn't matter, and I'm still here somehow, and I don't plan on going away anytime soon. And a main component and a main reason for that is, of course, you sharing the video and, of course, keeping us up and running through platforms like patreon.com/WeAreChange, where your donations keep us fully independent, not chilling for anyone, and not playing into the divide and conquer scheme that we have seen so many people do. That, of course, is just a huge disservice to society that I will never, ever do. That's my promise to you, and that's why I love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.